Hi everyone, we're back, and I'm here with Kevin Barden with Rivers Barden Architects. I was like, I don't know why it's a tongue twister for me, a little bit, but Rivers Barden Architects, and we're going to talk about architecture. It's something that I think a lot of people don't know anything about. I mean, I think people think, okay, you put up buildings, you design them, blah blah blah, but I think there's a lot more to it than that. So tell me a little bit about yourself personally, where you're from, all that stuff, and then kind of let's lead into what got you into architecture.
Yeah, well, I'm originally from Minnesota. Took the scenic route over to Houston. Most recently lived in San Francisco, Berkeley area, but I've been in Houston for about 6 years, and it's been awesome. Yeah.
I love San Francisco to go visit. I lived there briefly, and it was
pricey.
A little cold for my Texas blood too.
Yeah.
Prices were definitely, that's something you expect you're moving to San Francisco. But we paid $350 for a parking spot. Like for a parking spot in our building that we lived in already, that we were paying $3,000 rent for 900 square feet. So be appreciative if you're in Houston listening to this or watching this of the prices we have here in Houston. But I think the structures and architecture in San Francisco is really cool. I know, the building we lived in was from the 1800s. It was crazy, it was just really old.
Yeah, super beautiful buildings and beautiful landscape. But I think one of the differences between San Francisco area and the Houston area is San Francisco, you have to kind of call 300 neighbors, you got to put story poles up, it takes a year or 2 years to get through permitting and all these kind of things. And here in Houston, it's almost like, as long as you can comply with your HOA, you can kind of do what you want, and the timelines are a lot faster, and there's actually just kind of a lot more freedom to build what you want to build, which is a beautiful thing.
So what got you into architecture?
Yeah, architecture, I think it's been, I was super lucky and found a passion for designing and building at a very young age. And I think one of the things that helped me is I actually grew up in a geodesic dome in the woods, which is like a buckyball, almost like a soccer ball. So it's open on the inside and lots of great natural daylight and views to the woods, and so I was just surrounded in this space of light. And
how cool is
yeah,
that?
It was awesome. Yeah, my parents still live there today, but it was became super interested in architecture at a very young age, and have been very fortunate to find a path.
Are your parents involved in architecture and stuff? To live in a house like that, or is that just a normal type house in that area?
No, it is not a normal type house, and they are not architects. They met as musicians, and just had a real passion for doing something cool on their own. And
so they built that and designed that then?
Yeah, pretty much. They had a builder on hand, and really the only stipulation was the kitchen was in the middle, because you can't put any cabinets on a kind of a dome that goes to the floor and that kind of thing. But it was very, very cool. Yeah, loved growing up there.
I can see that being eye-opening, just what you can do. I live in this. You were probably the coolest house of all your friends. Probably always wanted to come over to your house.
This is where you live.
I remember I had someone when I was in high school. He lived in kind of a tin house. It was made out of metal basically, and it was a cool house. And then you had another one that had the red door. It was this big white house with just a red door. And it's just something that stands out and makes something unique.
Yes. Identity is so important. Yeah, especially in house. Yeah, because it's where you live.
Yeah, definitely. So, what are some of the projects and things that you're doing nowadays in Houston? And talking about permitting was really interesting, because the gentleman that was on before you, generators, he's saying how complicated it is to get some of these permits and things, but I guess compared to something like San Francisco or New York or something like that, it would be
it is. It's not as complicated as those areas, but there's still a lot of hoops to jump through with permitting. Even smaller renovations or additions can take a little bit of time, and certainly new builds take a bit of time too. And it's just kind of, really having your ducks in a row and having a good team to work with from a homeowner's point of view, and the architect and builder and everybody being on the same page goes a long way to making it as smooth as possible.
Yeah, as smooth as possible is
yeah,
key. 'Cause
there's always going to be hiccups, and it's like at the end of the day, you want people that you trust and people that you want to work with, and if there's a problem that you feel comfortable picking up the phone and calling and moving forward with the best solution.
what do you think, in your opinion, makes a good architect?
Good question. I think what makes a good architect and what makes a great architect is someone who really listens to the homeowner. I think there's a lot of times when, someone's just kind of hearing you, but what are those particular things that make the biggest difference in your life, and in terms of designing a home, or even in commercial properties as well, as like keying in on what's that most important thing, or multiple things that that need to find their way through the process of the whole project. So listening is a big thing in the practice, for sure.
What are some projects that people should call an architect for and shouldn't call an architect for?
Yeah, that's a great question too. I think probably anything from a residential side, anything that is requiring substantial renovation, anything that's kind of a new build. Those kind of projects you actually don't need an architect for, technically, to get something built. But really, an architect is going to bring the largest amount of value if there's something that's particularly custom, or something that you really want to see through to the end of the project. It's like oftentimes for our residential clients, building a house is the largest investment that they will make in their lives. And so if, as much as you can get it dialed in with someone who can really understands your vision, it becomes a really important thing.
What are the steps people, take in, like, once they contact you, like say, okay, this is the project I want to do, what are kind of the steps people can expect?
Absolutely. So steps folks can expect are, an interview process. So we really want to get to know you, how you live, what's important, like I mentioned before. But we go through the design process. So one of the things that's particularly important is kind of going through an iterative process of design, where it's not just one design, here it is, we're going to build it and kind of move on, but like, hey, here are 2 to 4 different concepts of what you could imagine for your life. And so much of it is like, you don't really know what you don't like until you see it, and you don't know what you really do like sometimes until you see it. And it takes a whole team to get through all those different iterations to be like, man, this is the perfect design for us moving forward. But yeah, so that's kind of the first half, and then we talk with all the engineers, and then we do construction documents and permitting, and then bring on the general contractor. Hopefully that's a little bit earlier in the process, so we can just have it as smooth as possible going into construction. But there's a lot of little steps along the way that really kind of bring it to reality.
So when you would call you, and then you would find the engineers, and you would help people through the whole process, or would they come with their own builder, or kind of how does that work? Because I know a lot of people don't, they're just like, okay, I want to buy a lot and I want to build a house, but they have nothing else beyond that. And I know that's where I can come in somewhat, because I have, builders that I've worked with in the past, kind of tell me your style, things like that. But where does that come into play? Like, let's say, I already have a custom builder, but they have, this design, but they want someone to come in and architect and partner with that builder and do something a little different from their book of business that they have in the past. How does that work?
Yeah. So I think maybe starting with the consultants. We have a team of consultants that we can kind of pick up the phone and call, and depending on the project type or complexity or any kind of things like that, there's better fits for better projects. And then with the general contractor, oftentimes a client has their particular builder that they want to move forward with, but they want to compare it with 1 to 2 other contractors and make sure they're getting a good price. So we have our Rolodex of contractors that we work with as well, and that we vouch for, and really it's, so once we start with the design, we have the relationships built up to make it as smooth as possible, to make the dream a reality.
I guess is that what the advantage of working with an architect is? Like, what would you say the benefits of working with an architect?
Yeah, I would say kind of the larger vision, really of kind of getting down to the details of like, what are those initial conversations, that you have, and are those apparent? Do they make their way all the way to the end of the project? Also, just the design, the quality of design. We go to school for years to just studying design. How you can be the most efficient. What's the best value? We talk a lot with our clients about energy savings. And so we use a program throughout the design process that actually tells us how much money you're saving just with your design if you do this and this and this. And it's like, hey, if you spend, $10 more, we'll save you $20 over the next 10 years.
Is that based on like a window, or based on what you're ordering to put in your house?
Exactly.
Like that's kind of that stuff?
Yeah,
okay.
So there's all these different variables of like, how good should my insulation be? What should my window package be? Do I have too many windows that face south or face directly west? What's the orientation of the living room? All those kind of variables go into how much energy your house is using, and at the end of the day, how much you're paying the energy company. And if we can tell you that, hey, you'll save $200 to $300 a month for the next 10 years, that's a good chunk of change. And just kind of getting back to the house that I grew up in with the geodesic dome, my parents specifically built that for energy savings, and they said, we're going to pay for the college education of our kids through the energy savings of this house. And it's like, if you can tell a homeowner who has a young family that college education is free if you do these things with your house, that's a huge win, and that means a lot to a homeowner, and that's where architects can really be of value to a family.
I don't think people even think about all those things, and I guarantee you some of the builders, look at the domes, they're showing the domes right now.
Yeah.
I think, I don't think that people even think about that, and I guarantee that some of these mass production builders don't think about that when they're building the house. It's just like, it's a lot, they're subdividing it, they're putting it here, it's how it's going to fit on the lot. It's not what area, what direction it's facing, what windows we're putting in, what any of that kind of stuff,
Exactly. And so it's like, I think a lot of times an architect is really great for projects where you're going to be in a house for 10, 5, 7, 10 plus year forever house. That's where our services really pay off.
Yeah, you're really kind of build your dream home. If you're building it from scratch and you really want to maximize your benefit, have the builder partner with an architect that you trust. So It's like, go out and meet the architect. Like you said, you kind of have an interview process. Make sure it's a fit for you and for them. I think it's on both sides. I think same thing as a realtor, right? When we meet, it's like, maybe I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I hope I am, but maybe I'm not. So if I'm not, maybe I can guide you with somebody else that would be a better fit for you, for what you're looking for. Or that's not an area that our company, for example, I can refer people all over the country. So it's not like, oh, I had a client recently, well, I wish you could help me here. It's like, oh, we can, we can refer you to someone else, and I guess with you, it's like specific projects might not be, I guess, not necessarily ideal, but they might not just be the fit for the vision of your business and how you run your firm.
And for the client, where it's like, hey, you'd be way better spending your time or resources with somebody else that's not us, and it's all about having that referral network where you can, everybody. It's got to be a win-win, for everybody, and to just have that outlook and best interest for the clients and homeowners is very important.
What are the current trends you're seeing in the market with architecture and things that are happening?
Yeah, good question. I think there's a lot of we're always thinking about different materials, technologies, working with audiovisual consultants, There's a whole lot of technology in there that's super cool, super awesome, that can be integrated into any design. But just, really kind of going, there's sometimes trends are kind of going back to the basics as well, where it's like, just love daylight. We love connecting with nature. We like energy savings. We want to, that's a pretty big trend in the market right now too.
Yeah, I mean, AAV stuff, you can go nuts. I know
Yeah,
there's
it's
expos
amazing.
and all kinds of stuff that happen that you can go and see things that aren't even out for people to use for 3 years or so. So if you connect yourself with someone that, is kind of innovative and things like that, to put all those innovations into the home that you're designing for somebody, it really kind of is a win-win. And
Exactly.
you're the best people to have those connections, right? Because the average person doesn't have, all those connections and stuff. So if you connect with an architect that can help you, designers and all kinds of stuff that help, because even interiors need to be, once you've designed that home and stuff, there's
Big
so many
time.
trends that are changing. And
Yeah, and that's, I think, the one thing with being an architect is, we are really good at knowing a lot of things about, or a little bit about a lot of things, but there's consultants, interior designers, landscape architects, landscape designers, audiovisual consultants that know a lot more, builders, how to build things. We love talking with them early on in the construction process, because they're the ones who are actually building it.
Yeah.
And it's like, really relying on experts and expertise to make the best product possible.
so you kind of come with a team approach, like, hey, we have all these people that can offer that. And I think that's an industry. It's like, I'm a real estate agent. I know a little bit about everything, but I'm not a lender. I'm not a title company. So specific questions I have to kind of direct to those people that are the experts in that field. So I think that's really important, to have a good network of people working with you at all times.
So true. So true.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
But tell
Thank
people how
you.
they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, you can get a hold of me. Our website is riversbarden.com. And my phone number is 281-742-0256. Check us out, give a call, and happy to help.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. We appreciate it. And we'll be right back after this commercial break.